Blah.
Ah.
You just
Been-
keep going. Like, we know we got you, but keep going.
That's just how we start all of the videos. That's how we do all the sound testing behind the scenes. All right. You know what? Let's leave it in. Welcome to O3 Drop, the show where we cover the offbeat, off-meta Legends of the Armory. I am Craig, aka Poopy, and I'm joined today by my wonderful co-host, Mr. Smithel and Brice. I'm going to start with Brice because, Chris, you seemed too excited to say how you were doing. So I'm going to give it to Brice because he played a little more cool.
You gotta play it cool.
Yeah, you want it too bad, Chris.
I've been doing great. I'm binging Preacher right now because I never got a chance to
Ooh.
watch it when it came out.
Did you read the comics?
Not up to like where they got to in the show.
Sure.
I got a little bit of the same thing with Walking Dead. I never really finished that, but the show took over. But it's wild so far, man.
So you've had a pretty packed schedule because I think you've also been delving into Marvel Rivals.
Someone needs to take that game away from me before I like punch my monitor again.
I am like abstaining, but like watching all the YouTube content. It's just like I can't do this right now. Once I'm in, I'm in. But
It's
like,
fun, man. I'm not even a Marvel DC kind of fan. As I like comics like Preacher and Walking Dead and Saga and that kind of stuff. Never got into Marvel, but like, man, that game is fun enough on its own, even if you're not, a fan.
Yeah. Right on. One day I'll get into it and I'll let you know if I'm on Squirrel Girl or not.
Yes.
Chris,
Yes, you are.
How are you doing, my man? What's going on with you?
I was gonna say, I'm also deep in the Marvel Rivals
Oh, nice.
system. Probably not as much as Brice, but I'm very deep in it. It is a lot of fun. But I was gonna say, I was super excited because I'm not only wearing one Naruto shirt, but I got the second Naruto
Bang!
shirt.
Oh, double Naruto. Believe it.
In case I get too hot, we can get double the Naruto power today.
I was like in one of these modes yesterday where it was like I had a list of important things that I had to do, but I just kept getting like ADHD moments where it was just like, I know that I'm supposed to do this thing, but until I read the next chapter of Boruto, I'm never going to be able to get it done right. And I gotta say, Boruto is the son of Naruto.
Sure.
It gets a lot of flack in the West, but it's not bad. Plus, they're redoing all of it for the Western audience with no fillers and all that stuff. So the anime is going to be fixed.
The Boruto one or the Naruto one?
Boruto.
Okay, that's awesome. I actually quite liked the manga. I started off excited, became a hater, and now I'm like, okay, this is getting pretty good. But anyway, we're here to talk about Flesh and Blood, and we're here to talk about some really cool cards that we got this week. We have 4 new cards spoiled. You probably only thought
5.
3. Oh, 5?
5.
What
was the 5th one?
You thinking? Did you forget the quiver?
I forgot the Verdance one. I was gonna.
Oh my god! The one that you are the most excited about.
No, wait. I'm most excited about Vincent and Katsu,
yeah,
but
that's not the one he's excited about.
Oh, sorry. I'm thinking Vincent. You said Verdance. My brain goes Vincent.
No, Vincent.
Nope, you're right.
I'm not forgetting that one.
I was like, how did you forget about that?
No. But I was totally about to shame you guys for forgetting about the quiver, and then I forgot about Verdance. But we have some awesome cards to talk about. And I thought that because I am a Katsu aficionado, I would, if you guys don't mind, start the episode having a conversation about Retrace the Past. Because I think that one of the ways that we can look at this card, which would be fun for all of us, hopefully, is to do a little tier list. And so I'm going to share my screen. Let's see.
Is this a tier list of possible cards that you can name?
Yeah, so this isn't every combo card, but this is going to give us like kind of an idea of what you might want to be playing with this. And I'm going to pull up, let's get Retrace the Past.
Can I make one? Well, I'll let you get Retrace the Past up, but I got a card that I'm want you to start with because I have questions.
Yes. Life of the Party?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm like, that's not a ninja card.
We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there. Okay, so starting off, retrace the past. We have when this attacks, if a card with Gust Wave in its name was the last attack this combat chain, name a card. This gets that name +2 and go again. So obviously, the first thing that we can say is this is our Bonds of Ancestry quote unquote replacement. This is how we turn on Dishonor. We have been told that there's going to be some rules changes, not by Carol when he was here. Go watch that interview if you haven't. That's just sort of what the internet told us. So we believe that we'll be able to name Bonds of Ancestry. We'll name Bonds of Ancestry. We'll have Dishonor back online. Now, you want to start with Life of the Party. And Life of the Party, maybe I'll keep I'll do it in post. We'll add Life of the Party up there. But Life of the Party says that as an additional cost, or as a replacement cost, rather, you can destroy a card named Crazy Brew, and you don't have to pay its resource cost. It also allows you to choose all of the modes. The modes on Life of the Party are, this gets +2, this gets go again, and if it hits, you gain 2 life. So it would essentially be a 0 cost, 6 go again, on hit gain 2 life. 8 value with go again. That's why people are interested in this card. Because
interesting. Okay.
You can name Retrace the Past Crazy Brew.
Crazy Brew.
This doesn't have to be an item named Crazy Brew. It just says destroy Crazy Brew, right? So you can name Retrace the Past Crazy Brew, and then when you destroy it, that doesn't even break the chain. That's just as an additional cost. You've already moved on to the next link. And also cards can leave the chain and still have their link active. So that is why that's on here. And I want to get to that a little bit later down the line, because there's some fundamentals of Katsu that we need to talk about in order to evaluate these cards. And most people are going to know what they are, right? Katsu cards are meant to, or we really want to see cards that have a 0 cost. We want to see cards that have breakpoints, and we want to see cards that block 3 on a combo. This is because with Flick Flack, they will block 5, and if without Flick Flack, they still block 3. Blue, great for Kodachis, great for any resources, and we do need resources in this deck. And 0 cost activate Katsu's ability. So I think the best place to start then would be with Dishonor, because Dishonor will attack for 4. It has an incredible on hit, and it also does all the other things. 0 cost, 3 block.
Sure.
Where do you guys feel like Dishonor is going to be for Katsu with your knowledge of Katsu?
So me personally, I feel like it's a good card. I mean, Dishonored's a good card.
My files.
Oh no. but I'm not as afraid of Dishonor now, even with this card, as I was previously. I would put it maybe a high B. Again, not a Katsu player. Craig, you could laugh at me if I'm way off. Just doesn't feel like this is something that you're going to be building your deck around to do like potentially you were before.
Okay. Brice, how are you feeling with this?
I mean, as a non-Katsu player, how often are you going to have Dishonor line up? Because if you control 3 separate cards, to be fair, you could name something.
Surging Strike, Descendant Gustwave, and Bonds of Ancestry, which you must name Retrace the Past.
Right, yeah, right, because all they're being able to rename things with that whole line. I guess it's not impossible to set up. It makes it a lot easier. But in all of the games that you've played, the many of them that you have played, how often do you have that online?
Well, I haven't actually played much with the new cards. I haven't really been able to, and if I'm being honest, once we got Call, I was like, well, I gotta play this. And then I lost to Chris on Olympia. So we haven't figured it out yet. but
I
we're
mean,
gonna.
To
on
be fair, I think you should have had that. So
on the surface, turning off the hero ability is just a wildly strong thing to do for
Mhm.
most cases. There's a couple, there's a
Yeah.
couple heroes where it's like, okay, it's not gonna just completely end my turn if I don't have my hero ability.
So
Um,
I'm gonna tell you guys that I think that Dishonor right now is at the lowest of C tier. And
well, okay.
Chris, you said A, and what Brice you were getting into is the extremely powerful on hit, right? One of
Yeah.
the best things you can do in the game. Now, one of the reasons why Dishonor was such a good card in Bonds of Ancestry Katsu was that you had two cards during that chain that you were able to tutor because you were often able to get a hit, have Katsu trigger, and then have Bonds of Ancestry trigger. One less tutor, and in a list that I am assuming we're gonna be off pouncing links a little bit more and going back to Mask of Momentum. But regardless of what mask you
Yep.
wear, this is a lot more limited, a lot harder to work. And currently, I don't know the a correct amount of number of Descendant Gust waves to run, but the fact that you can't change the sequencing like you could in Bonds of Ancestry Katsu, where you could go Surging Strike, Whelming Gust Wave into Bonds of Ancestry, get a Descendant Gust Wave, and then your Dishonor is still online, but it's attacking for 4. Now you have to be attacking for 4 and have the on hit. So when you present this line now, it's almost the most face up thing you can do in this hero because you can either tutor for Dishonor or you can tutor for Whelming or Descendant Gust Wave or Retrace the Past if your Surging Strike hits. But as soon as you name Bonds of Ancestry, you know that the next card is going to be Dishonor.
Yep.
It's very unlikely now that we have less card draw. There's far less card advantage for Katsu now that we've lost Art of War and Bonds of Ancestry, that you'll be able to put together another Descendant into another Retrace the Past. And even if you were to do that, the correct move is to name that first Retrace the Past Surging Strike. So Dishonor has become so much more telegraphed and much more difficult to get multiple Dishonors or to change the sequencing because there's not that card advantage that Katsu used to have. So personally, I'm going to keep 2 in my list because every Katsu player loves to play this card. It's
Sure.
nothing feels better than making an enemy for life. And I love this card, but I'm going to say that this is one of the worst combo cards right now. With that, let's go back to some Welcome to Wraith cards. One that I think is interesting is Mugenshi Release. Mugenshi Release gets a lot of crap. People don't love Mugenshi Release because it costs 1. It has to follow up Whelming Gust Wave. If it does, it comes in for 5, but it has the problem of it has to hit in order to get Lord of Winds, and then your Lord of Winds, you have to be able to pitch into them to get a buff, right? So if you've already blocked with 2 Lord of Winds, Mugenshi Release can be a little bit awkward. Do you guys feel that
Makes
this
sense.
card is now better or worse than where it has been? Do you think Katsu players should be more excited or less?
Still missing the card draw. I feel like you're gonna have a lot harder of a time to get the resources. Like I think you're right. We're going back to Mask of Momentum. I mean, certainly you can threaten it, still be able to get that resource. I don't think this is again more or less than it was before. I think more than before. I would not be excited.
Do you care that much about getting gust waves back? Because that's kind
Right.
of the second half of it is what Lord of Wind lets you do if it hits, if you have the resources to pay, if you have gust waves in your graveyard. Um it feels like those kind of situational things aren't going to be as reliable anymore.
Mhm.
Like with what you said, switching to the different mask, no more card draw. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's I think that's sort of my thing with the combo ninjas in general.
Mhm.
Is that just if you don't have the pieces you need, then what does it really do?
Brice, does it change your opinion if I told you that Lord of Wind does not have to hit? You just pay that many resources, it gets
Oh
plus
yeah,
X, and you shuffle that many cards with
the good
combo
luck.
or Surging Strike back into your deck.
I mean, that's a big benefit, and I guess I was kind of focusing on like the gust wave part of it,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's like any card with combo. Is it? I mean, that seems like a good deal if you can get that lined up and not not worry about the shortcomings
Mhm.
of Magenshi like in the first place.
Yeah.
But
I think this is now A tier, and I'll tell you why. This card can be played in multiple places in the chain. Where we talked about Dishonor before of having the problem of not being able to switch your sequencing around, you can do that with Mugenshi Release because the condition for deck building for Retrace the Past is to be running cards with Gust Wave in their name. It's going to
Hmm.
be running Surging Strikes. You're not just going to run 9
okay,
Descendant
yeah.
Gust Waves and no Surging Strikes. You're going to be on at least 6 Surging Strikes, be like water. You'll have your Descendant Gust Waves, but this combo specifically off of Whelming Gust Wave, which is every Katsu's favorite Gust Wave of the three. It is objectively Whelming Gust Wave, Descendant Gust Wave, other Gust Wave. Um,
So
so,
here's my question for you though. So
mm,
with this being a yellow pitch cost one card
mm,
that generally Katsu doesn't necessarily love, we'll put it that way. We're already throwing 3 copies of Retrace the Past in, I assume, into any new combo
yeah.
or Katsu deck. What is this card taking the slot of that
Well,
was in before?
I have to say it's hard to answer that, Chris, because the deck is so fundamentally different. It is
Okay.
it is very different. And part of that is the way that our extenders work is incredibly different. Whereas before, you really just wanted extenders to be like 100 wins or spinning wheel kick, something with combo that you could
Yep.
target from Bonds of Ancestry. It changes things now, where since you don't get that target, you don't necessarily have to run those combos. So you can run starters that might be better. And we can go into a little bit more of that as we look at some of the head jab and the leg tap lines. But
Hmm.
what this does do is allows you to get back the key cards that you're building around. And it allows you to do something like pitch a blue and play Kadachi into 4.
Okay.
So a nice just 2 card 6.
Fair.
So I think this card is much better. It's also just the ability to be able to go Surging Strike into a Whelming Gust Wave, into Retrace the Past for 4, into this for 5, and then, possibly be able to send Lord of Wind for 8. Like there's of a lot more room to use this card than there used to be. It used to be very like you have to just go Surging Strike, Whelming Gust
Mm-hmm.
Wave, this into Lord of Wind. You just get one additional chain link where you can kind of like switch it around, and
Mm-hmm.
that is very powerful in this
You think
list.
this is a 3 of then?
I would not go as far as to say a 3 of, but I will
Yeah.
say when I'm thinking about this list, I'm thinking about what does Retrace the Past play well with. And I think
Okay.
that one of the things that's going to be interesting about this list is it plays well with not necessarily trying to run a 3 of every good combo card. There's going to be
Fair.
situations where you're going to want different things.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where I want to start with. These are probably some of the biggest changes for Katsu right now and the combo cards. Are there any cards? I know, Chris, you wanted to talk about Life of the Party. Is that where you want to go next, or is there
Yeah.
anything else you want to look at?
I think since we already kind of covered Life of the Party, I think that's kind of good.
Mhm.
The other one that I've heard some people talking about, obviously, and again, not a Katsu player, so I definitely appreciate you explaining this.
Mhm.
Hearing a lot about Flusterfist,
Yeah.
kind of people talking about that. I think Key Unbound, I don't, know how much of this is necessarily impacting that, especially if you're going
So
into Katsu, unless you're
there's a
really,
really
really doing Kitty
interesting
Katsu.
there's a really
Tigers
interesting
for that
thing
though.
where right now I'm trying out for the first time like hybrid Surging Strike Tigers, and I don't think that having 3 copies of a card that could be named a tiger but isn't a tiger is
Yeah.
really going to make me want to play that list. But I wanted to include them here just because you'll see as we compare them, there's some slight minor differences between some of the cards here and other cards that make them worth considering. I think if you're on a budget, you don't have certain cards. But why don't
Sure.
we go for Flusterfist then? Flusterfist obviously has the Salt the Wound combo. Well, it's not a Salt the Wound combo. If open the center was the last card, Flusterfist gets +1 for each attack that is hit this combat chain.
Mhm.
So Flusterfist has all of the Katsu requirements for a good card. Combo,
Yes.
0 cost, blocks 3, breakpoint.
Yep.
How do you guys think this card fits into this list?
I like Flusterfist a lot. I like it a lot. I mean, if we're going back to, Mask of Momentum kind of Katsu style, and it doesn't say, hey, it has to be last attack action card or how many attack action cards hit. Let's assume we're doing dagger hit. They're going to block the 3rd if they're trying to prevent mask and trying to prevent your, what's it called? Your opener, so to speak.
Yeah.
Even if you have another thing that hits and then you finish with Fluster Fit, like let's say, you go in with a new card and, you name it Open the Center. Then you finish with Fluster Fist. Still pretty good turn.
Mhm.
Still pretty good turn. So I kind of like it. I think it's pretty good.
Brice,
Yeah, I
how
was
are you
kind of
thinking?
like that was basically my first instinct was like thinking about Salt the Wound. Anything that gets bonuses for each attack that's hit, you're probably gonna get at least +2 on it. Um, got to assume, unless you're playing a filthy warrior with dynamos, you got to assume that like both your Kadachis are gonna hit, so that's at least a 0 for 6.
Mhm.
But then having more access, would you say that like these new cards are like is it now in a situation where you have more access to cards that let you declare a name? I mean,
Well, now we have
there's
1.
definitely that
We
one
had
more.
0 and now we have 1.
Oh, right, because the other one, yeah.
Because to be honest, you'll never run the mask that allows you to do that in Classic Constructed, and the card that allows you to do that before was a Mystic specialist, Mystic talent card. So this is the first
There's
card that
no
allows
other
you.
ninja cards that allow you to declare a name. I thought there were.
Be Like Water does. If it hits, you can change its name
But that's
for a
yeah. Who cares
resource.
about that?
But it does not. It never was allowing us to enable that combo. I
Okay,
think
that's fair.
Flusterfist deserves some place between a B and an A. And so when I say this, I want to like clarify that I'm not saying that you shouldn't include 3 blue Flusterfists in your list. You absolutely should. Like, this is a fantastic card to round out your list. But I think I want to look specifically at like, what is the combo? How reliable is this combo? And I think that like blue Flusterfist is going to be fantastic. Red Flusterfist is going to be pretty good. I'd probably say it's an A. I mean, my big thing is going to come back down to we have lost card advantage in a big way with Art
Yep.
of War leaving and with Bonds leaving. Katsu no longer is a hero that can have 9 chain links, right? We might have 5, and that'd be great. We might, maybe 6, who knows? But we are not going to have, 13 chain links of Bonds of Ancestry and Descendant Gust Waves and finish it up with an active Flusterfist. So it's always been a good card. It remains a good card. If we were to just compare these two on their face with no combo active, Flusterfist is better. We'd rather just not have to pay that resource and end on a breakpoint. So we also have the Katsu ability. But when we're looking at like how does retrace the past play with these cards, I think that what we have to assume every time we play Retrace the Past is that our turn at most is Kodachi, Surging Strike, Gust Wave, Retrace the Past. So if every one of those hit, then this can come in for 8, and that's great. That's insane. Every one of those will very likely not hit unless you're in an aggro mirror, unless you're playing something like a Zen. But I do think that this card, like, regardless of me, I might not be putting it at S tier. I might be like kind of more towards B here, but I think this should be in just about every list, especially when we get into some other cards. Let's move to Life of the Party. Life of the Party, I already said that it can be 8 value. So I myself am conflicted on this because paying 2 resources for a card that is less powerful than Surging Strike at its base and does not have Go Again is already a really tough sell. What makes this even tougher is that it cannot be tutored for, and it blocks for 2. And it does not have combo. So the flick flack effect cannot be done on this.
Yep.
So do you guys feel that, understanding those negatives, that the positives are outweigh the negatives? Should this be high tier, low tier? Where's your initial impression?
I think this is a pet deck kind of inclusion. So like, and again, I didn't expect to see this whenever you brought the list out. But when you explained it, I'm like, okay, this is kind of good. The 2 block scares me. Understanding, Katsu, you generally want to be a little more aggro. The 2 cost is what I'm more concerned about. I feel like it doesn't hit everything I want it to hit. What good is the Go Again if you don't have anything great to follow it up with? Maybe you get lucky, you get a mass trigger or something crazy off of this. But for the most part, I don't know if I'm playing this unless I'm kind of playing like a Mimi Katsu. I think there's going to be too many other good cards that you're going to want in your deck that this isn't going to outperform.
So you're saying you basically have to have for that little trick to work, you basically have to have Life of the Party in your hand already. You can't go fetch it.
You must have it.
Yeah.
There is no fetching Life of the Party unless you run a blue one and you run Pouncing Links, in which case I'm kind of assuming that you're running the red one based off of what Katsu needs. Running a 2 cost blue is probably
you don't run
not
the blue or the yellow.
Pointless. Yeah.
So you need Retrace the Past, you need this somewhere in here. Like, you need to work so hard to make this combo line up. When I feel like Katsu's goal is to have the combos line up a lot easier. You want to be able to tutor for your combo. You want to be looking at something and saying, I can craft this line with this hand if I tutor or if I do this correctly. Life of the Party, I feel like you're going to be either getting it, plopping it in Arsenal, letting it sit too long, or having it in hand and saying, well, I can't do much with it now. I guess I'll just block with it or pitch it away and hopefully I get it later or do something like that. I don't see this being a great addition to what Katsu wants to do.
Yeah.
I think this is our first D tier, if not low C. And I am happy to revisit this later and have everyone tell me you're crazy. But
I think it'd be cool if we get it to work.
When we look at the best way to get this card to be active, it involves us pitching a card to play Descendant Gust Wave to start for 3. Then it involves us playing our Retrace the Past, which is really a prime card, and that comes in for 4. This coming in for 6 and not being a breakpoint that cannot be buffed by Razor Reflex, Ancestral Empowerment, or Breaking Scales is very, very bad, in my opinion. The fact that you cannot present the threat of an additional buff to this and it not being a breakpoint allows me to just say, great, here's 2 cards. I don't want you to gain life. I don't want you to get your mask trigger. I've just shut you off. there's nothing that you can follow up this card with that makes the threat increase. It's just the next thing that you can do might be a 5, right? So I don't like this card at all. The 2 cost is devastating. Or the two cost is devastating. You cannot pitch it for Kodachis because of its 2 cost. You get 1 resource out of it. You never want to really just generate 1 resource in Katsu.
Nope.
And its blocking is bad. So I think this card is absolutely a pet deck card, and I would never bring it to a tournament.
No,
I remember a very, very, very good deck builder telling us that, you know, if the card doesn't put you towards your overall game plan of your deck, don't use it.
Yeah.
Find something better that does get you towards the game plan of your deck. And like, I get it being cool to like actually pull that off, but it like doesn't really help you any other. If you get that in your hand when you don't have the other pieces, like huge waste.
This is something you do whenever the gem packs come out in February, and you go to an armory and go,
cold foil life of the party.
I just want to have fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring this deck just for laughs.
There's a very real chance that Pummel Katsu becomes more like of an actual deck now that you can play some of these more like heavy costed combo cards. I'm gonna keep this here, and I'm gonna be unambiguous about the next one. We're gonna look at Flood of Force.
Flood of Force.
It's the worst card they've ever printed for ninjas. It's so bad. It attacks for 1. Then you have to reveal the top card of your deck. And if that card has combo, this gets +3. And I believe in addition to that, I'm gonna look it up. Hold with me.
You do put the card into your hand that you reveal.
Yes, you put it into your hand, and this gets go again. However, there's a little card out there called Ancestral Harmony. It has never hit a combo card. It is so inconsistent that the idea of spending one of your most powerful cards and going to tutor a 1-cost card that then whiffs is horrendous to me. Now that we've said that, I want to talk about Break Tide. And I want you guys to tell me what you think of Break Tide, because Break Tide is not too different. It says that when this attacks, if Rushing River or Flood of Force was the last attack this combat chain, it gets +3, Dominate, and when it hits, banish the top card of your deck until the end of your next turn. You may play it. So it comes in for 5, Dominate. It's a 0-cost yellow, and it's got 3 block, which is not far off from Flood of Force, which comes in for 0, or which has a 0-cost yellow pitch, 3 block, and can come in for 4. Both of them threaten card advantage.
I like this one more. Again, the sole reason why I like this more. So it doesn't have a go again or anything like that.
No go again. So that's the main difference.
It's a chain ender. So in my mind, it's sitting here saying, I can play this. The Dominate helps a lot. So it's a 5 Dominate, which is basically saying I'm demanding, a D-React or something like that from you out of Arsenal and a card from hand, or armor and card from hand. But the fact you can banish the top card of your deck and it lasts till the end of your next turn helps. So it's basically saying, if you play this, let's say you're Katsu and you're able to get this off, play it, go Arsenal something, go into your next turn with essentially a 6-card hand. You know what I mean? I kind of like that. I don't know if I'm going to sit there and say it's broken or anything like this. Again, first time I've honestly seen the card. Even though it's been out since Everfest, I think it's okay. I think it's okay.
Brice, you seem to disagree.
So like when I was first reading that, I was like, why on earth would you even do that? It doesn't have go again. What good is having a card you can play until the end of your turn if Break Tide doesn't have go again? Then I realized, it's until the end of your next turn. But is that worth playing Rushing River or Flood of Force? because Flood of
That's
Force
the
is
beautiful
also
thing
kind
about
of like
but you're not playing it. You're playing the new card that you
Burdens
name
of the
Flood of Force.
or Retrace the Past.
oh, right, okay, yes.
Yeah. So
So
you
this
don't
is
have to
this is
play the
why
crap
this is
card
why
to get the
Katsu
good
players
card.
are so in love with Retrace the Past. Is
Okay.
we've been begging for reasons to play cards that are unplayable because of bad combo cards in the chain. Right?
Yeah, I kind of forgot the whole like right. This whole conversation is about now we can name things.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so what is that? I mean, so if you can name things, the Rushing River. I'm trying to think like what that. And I guess the idea of Rushing River is that it lets you kind of like set up where you could hit that Flood of Force proc, right? Because it lets you order the cards. Am I reading that correctly?
That is typically how Rushing River works. Is you draw up cards equal to the amount of times you've hit, and then you put them back in any order. It's sort of like opting. Not running that here. I'm just going to show you guys. Break Tide is S tier. Break Tide is maybe the best of the combo cards to be running in this new list, and the reason is card advantage. As I've talked earlier about how difficult it is to like have card advantage, this is an evasive card that attacks for 5 and gets you a card on your next turn. So if this is your Mask of Momentum card and it comes in and it has Dominate and they're not willing to get equipment, you get to say, cool, I'll put a card, I will draw a card, I'll put it into my arsenal, I'll banish a card, and I'll be able to play that until the end of my next turn.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike Flood of Force and unlike Ancestral Harmony, this does not care about combo. It doesn't even care about class cards. This is just an evasive card advantage card at a breakpoint. Well, I think of 5 as a breakpoint. I am not Michael Hamilton. I don't know how we talk about these things.
I think five's actually the new breakpoint. There's so many 4 blocks and things like that in this game.
Yeah, I think that this card is absolutely worth running in any list that runs Retrace the Past. I'm not going to say it's a 3 of yet, but it is one of those cards that we get the flexibility as Katsu players now to look at our opponents and go, how well do you know Katsu? And they go, I know what Whelming Gust Wave does. And you're like, right. But if I name this Rushing River, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to, what does that mean to you? If this is Rushing River,
you as somebody that doesn't play against a lot of Katsu or hasn't played Katsu, if you would say Rushing River, I would have zero clue what's coming up next.
Yeah.
I would just sit there and say, well, I know something's coming. So, and this is where I probably get screwed. So I'm going to hold back some cards to block whatever the hell's coming that I don't know of to be prepared just in case. This comes out, it has Dominate. I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
It also 63 cents. So is this the Poopy scoop?
Is this the Poopy Scoopy? I would scoop this poop. I would scoop this poop hard. I personally, I've scooped all the poop of Ninja cards. Like, I'm talking the poopiest of poop. I've been scooping that just like begging. Like, I wanted more than anything for Zen's whole deal to be that he plays Shifting Winds of the Mystic Beast and then just messes with your head. But it turns out that Zen's whole deal is just that he's good at numbers. And that was disappointing to me. Okay, that's a little bit of evasion. Let's talk about 2 more. I have 3 more evasive cards in here. And we'll kind of go through these pretty quickly. The next one is Heron's Flight, another card that no one knows. And Heron's Flight is also going to attack for 5. But unlike Flood of Force, it doesn't have Dominate. It has a sort of Warmonger's Diplomacy way of blocking where you get to choose attack action or non-attack action, and then your opponent can't block with that.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. So Chris, loving it as much as Break Tide, less, more.
Well, now that you told me Break Tide may be the best, I'm going to say less. But I think I like it a little less, primarily just because it doesn't give you the card draw, the card advantage potential. But the fact that you could basically, like you said, make it a Warmongers and say, I'm going into, let's say, I don't know, against a verdict or something, where I'm assuming you're going to have a lot of non-attack action, being a wizard. I can essentially just shut you off. And if I get this late game, let's say I pitch this okay, and I say, okay, I want this to be a closer, I want something like this. You can just stop them and saying you're forced to take this damage. Uh,
Mhm.
I like this a lot.
Yeah, that can be a game ender, especially if you're
Mhm.
warriors too, man. Like
So let's just look at the value here for a second of Break Tide is dominate. This is choosing a card type. Break Tide is a yellow pitch. This is a red pitch. Neither of them have go again.
Hmm?
Break Tide also is card advantage. What tier do you think that Heron's Flight ends up in? I'm letting you know it's lower.
Yeah, I still think it's good. I'd put it in A. Again,
Okay.
not a ninja player, not a pro. I still like this. I still think this is a good ender for a late game use. Not going to be
yeah.
as big early game, whenever they're like, okay, fine, I just won't block and I'll send something back.
Mhm.
But whenever you can sit there and threaten and force armor, or you can force what you want them to do out of it, I like this.
So my question, as this being something that, like we said, looks like a pretty obvious choice for like a game ender, it's red.
Mhm.
So, it kind of came up before. You're not pitching reds that often.
Yeah.
If you want to try to pitch stack this to get it later on in the game, you're going to be suffering on a turn where you have to just like pitch a red for some reason.
Mhm.
Unless maybe you get something silly turn one that you can throw that down and have it halfway through your deck instead of at the end of the deck. But that, a case for it to be not as good is that its value gets like just
That's fair.
lower the earlier you get it.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
I think it's pretty bad. And the reason is obviously the red cost is a big part of it. The red pitch is a big part of it. It's also that it doesn't have go again, and that you can totally whiff on what you call. And in fact, most of the time you will. Unless you're playing something like Kano. If you play this against Kano, I got news for you. You probably don't have cards left in your hand. That's going to be really tough. That's
That's
good.
fair.
But they're going to be like, "Oh no, I can't block with non-attack actions. I guess I'll play them." So I don't like this card, and one of the big reasons is that on its own, it is attacking for 3, which isn't a breakpoint. And yes, Break Tide is coming in for 2, but it's also allowing 2 Kodachis. So, and ideally, Break Tide you can use
Fair.
for Kodachis, and you just get 2 instances of 1. Whereas Heron's Flight, you kind of end your chain with it, and it's just kind of a wimpy way of throwing 3 additional damage. And when we look at cards that we have listed here already, Dishonor is one of the best on hits in the game, and it's coming in for 4, and it's pitching blue. So yeah, it's not hard to get this combo online. All you have to do is say Crane Dance. You don't have to have several things lined up, but it doesn't have an on hit, and it doesn't have go again. So this is just 5 damage for 0. In fact, maybe I'll put it a little bit higher because I don't think that's horrible, but the fact that this isn't 5 damage without combo active, it's only ever 5 damage if combo is active.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
So let's look at something that's 5 damage without combo active, and that's going to be Pounding Gale. Pounding Gale is a 1 cost, attacks for 5, and it has a 3 block. And its combo is that if Open the Center was the last attack this chain, if this hits, it deals twice as much damage as it would. So if you let this hit for 1, you're taking 2. What do you guys think about Pounding Gale?
So let's see. Hold on.
Breakpoint.
Home Center's
Well,
the last.
a 5 breakpoint, not a 6 breakpoint, but
So let me ask you this question, Craig.
yeah.
I assume how much is Katsu running things like Razor?
That's a
or
great
anything like that these
question.
days?
That's a great
Because
question. I used to not be a big Razor Reflex player, and I'll tell you that right now with this new list, I think it's probably correct to run 3.
And that's what I'm starting to think. Is like I like Katsu, since I've been playing, kind of went through this like up and down where it was like Katsu played a lot of Razor, Katsu played no Razor.
Yeah.
Katsu played some Razor, Katsu played no Razor. Like, And I look at something like this and I'm like, okay, this is rough, but again, if I have a sink and it's one, okay, take two, not the end of the world. However, I think if the Katsu list starts shifting back towards like that attack reaction kind of phase where it's like, hey, we know we're not going 6, 7, 10 chain, links long easily anymore. And you're going to maybe just be 4, maybe 5. And I have to start thinking about razor reflex, things like that, that's going to maybe be able to let you go again. Like, put a razor on this, give it go again, get a mass trigger, keep playing. That's a little more dangerous. Plus, now if I say, I block with 3, assuming I'm taking 2, you buff it 3 more. That's really buffing it 6 more. You know, that scares me a lot more. So if I'm gonna say, if you think we're gonna be getting a lot more attack reactions, things like that out of Katsu, to make up for the lack of the chain length that he's gonna have, I like this more. If you think we're not going to be getting things like Razor, not going to be getting things that give go again or card drop, I like it less. So I'd probably say low A to B.
Yeah.
This is an S tier card.
Yeah.
And one of the
okay.
reasons for that,
it demands blocks for sure.
it demands
It
blocks.
does.
It demands blocks, and it has a 1 cost, which on a surging strike line is exactly how much you have floating. On a descendant line where you've pitched blue, you have exactly 1 floating to thread and razor. And being able to present it without combo is also really totally fine. Because you can go Kadachi, Pounding Gale, and get 7 value out of 2 cards. So this is one of the cards that I think was fun, playable. I played it in Blitz. I've been playing it in Blitz. I love it in Blitz, but I like it in Blitz. But in CC now, this is actually a very real card.
So let me walk through this in my head here with this. So assuming CC, let's assume I got 4 cards in hand to block. Kadachi comes out, I don't block. Kadachi comes out, I don't block. Another card comes out, whether it's a new one or not. I'm going to be blocking for mask, probably with 2 or a sink. So I'm going to have, okay. Yeah, I mean, it probably demands a whole hand.
Let me present
over
to
the course
you
of the chain.
Let me present to you what can happen if you block this perfectly, and I have 1 card and a tunic. This is Magic Christmas Land. Like, I mean,
Sure.
I'm not gonna go full Magic Christmas Land, but I could say, okay, Ancestral Empowerment gives it +1, draw into a Razor Reflex, use my tunic, give it Razor Reflex, Breaking Scales. You've blocked it out perfectly. You're taking 10.
Okay, that's gross. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
little,
So
even,
that is, again, that's a high end. We could go even higher and just say you draw Ancestral Empowerment into Ancestral Empowerment into Ancestral Empowerment into
yeah. But that makes sense. I mean, even if you sit there and you say, hey, look, you draw Ancestral and you get the card draw off of it, are you still running, do you think, snaps as Katsu, or are you running
no, I would run breaking,
one that gives combo.
God,
What's the boots that give combo cards go again?
Dude, Breeze Rider boots. Breeze
Breeze,
Rider
that's
boots.
it. Yeah,
I'm a breezy boy. I like to keep
Okay.
it breezy.
Your silly wooden boots.
I just like having the ability to always have a little bit of extra block on the board. So that's where I'm going to put that. Now, we've got another card that's kind of similar to it, which is Mauling Key. You guys probably know it from Zen. 1 cost 5, and on hit deal 1 to each other player. So ceiling's not as high as far as how much damage they can get hit, but it is another 1 cost 5.
I like that you may know this from famous people like Zen.
Yeah.
When this is last.
I'll give this one to you guys as to where I feel right now, because this is one of the ones that is sort of unexplored for me, because Tigers and Surging Strike are I think of it like oil and water to me. Like they should be separated. Not that they should, they can't be combined. But I think that Mauling Key is it's probably B tier. It's still good because it's still a 1 for 5, and just having an additional 1 for 5 in the deck is okay. Like, it's definitely, in my opinion, not as good as Mugenshi Release, because it doesn't have additional things to do. I could maybe see this being lower. Obviously, you can get rid of Heron's Flight to tutor for something else, which you can't for Mauling Key. But Mauling Key is always for 5, and I think that that's worth a little bit more. Now, if we do see that like there is this hybrid tiger stuff, I'm willing to go higher. But right now, I'm gonna say this is probably somewhere in here. But a 1 for 5 is a nice chain ender.
But that's all it has.
That's all it has. Is a nice chain ender.
Blocks for 3, which is fine.
Yeah,
but
it really just is a good value card. That off of a Kodachi can make off of a blue pitch, you can have a 7 value hand.
Yeah.
Fair.
So I'm not super high on it. I'd probably say it's somewhere around here. Let's look at Blackout Kick. Blackout Kick says if Rising Knee Thrust was the last attack this combat chain, Blackout Kick gets +3. It is almost the same as Ki Unleashed, which just costs 1 additional resource and gets +4, but they both on combo would get +3. So let's talk about both of these here. We just did Mauling Key, so let's talk about Ki Unleashed. This one coming in for 7, costing 2 resources.
I don't like anything that costs 2 resources.
I don't like anything that costs 2 resources either. That's all I need to say.
Yeah.
I feel there are good combo cards that cost 2 resources. Open the Center is a great one. We'll look at Cyclone Roundhouse, which I'll let you guys give me your thoughts on. But I don't like this, especially because when its combo is not active, it is not a breakpoint. Whereas Blackout Kick costs 1, and when its combo is not active, it comes in for 4. So also coming in for 7.
See, now I feel like I'm starting to learn because I've fallen in this trap numerous times here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is okay because, like, I think initially I was putting too much weight on like looking at it with the new card. Like, okay, if I play the new card first, how much do I care about this? The fact you can still do Kodachi this mid to late game, I think is fine.
Yeah.
4 obviously not as good as 5, but 3 block, 1 resource, okay. Am I learning, Craig? Am I learning?
Yeah, you're saying a lot of things that I agree with. I think
but
Blackout
I'm put it
Kick.
In D tier.
I think Blackout Kick is probably top of A because,
Okay.
like you're saying, it can come in as a breakpoint at the end of Kodachi's, but also like when we're talking about these lines that we're getting, what are we getting out of the value? This is the most value we can get off of a Retrace the Past when it comes to raw damage without something like a Razor Reflex backing it up. It's just 1 resource and we're coming in for 7. So that obviously a little different. Life of the Party, 8 value, but it's not, we already talked about Life of the Party. This isn't about Life of the Party. Blackout Kick coming in for 7 at the end of a chain where you've already gone, Surging Strike for 5, Descendant for 5, Retrace the Past for 4, and now you're coming in for 7. That's a brutal turn, right? That's
a good turn.
That 21 damage.
That's a good turn.
So that's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of Blackout Kick. Also, just like all things here, we kind of have to evaluate what does this do when it doesn't do anything. When this is just a card that you draw, it only costs 1 resource. That's very important. If it costs nothing, it would probably be even better. Like on their face between Flusterfist and Blackout Kick, yeah, Flusterfist is better, but I don't have a lot of confidence right now that Flusterfist combo will get to be more than like 6. And I would rather just run blue Flusterfist. So if I were to make tiers for Flusterfist, red Flusterfist would probably be here, and blue Flusterfist might be above Blackout Kick, just because of the value you get out of resources from it. And, just being able to turn is like, okay, well, now this blue actually attacks for 5 and doesn't cost anything.
Yep.
That's, really great. But let's talk about Cyclone Roundhouse. This is the one that eats your Valiant Dynamos. And so this says banish a card from each defending chain link at the beginning of the reaction step. It costs 2 resources and it comes in for 5. No go again.
Banishing stuff though. I mean, that includes equipment.
But it says banish a random defending card from each chain link. So I mean, generally, if somebody's throwing like a
Well,
Dynamos or something like that
what, you
on
think
it,
you're gonna throw something else in front of a Kodachi? Like that's gonna be the card.
yeah, I guess that's true. Good point. I mean, but I don't know. Like I feel like if I'm playing Dynamos or something, generally I'm blocking with Dynamos and something else to block like a 4 breakpoint, especially into a Katsu. So I mean, 50% chance of losing Dynamo still sucks, but I don't know about that. The rest of the stuff, banishing, I don't know. I feel like this is situational. Again, don't like anything that costs 2. I'm gonna say trash.
Banishing something with a blood debt. There's other options for it, but
as Vince said, baby,
two
we
for-
take that. We
Yeah.
take that all day. Banish my blood debt cards. What do I care?
2 for 5 yellow, no go again. An interesting but very situational ability. So like probably not super consistent.
I think you're right, Brice. I think that this belongs as a B tier. It does have naturally 5, and this ability is powerful. One of the things that you guys missed about it, though, is that it in itself is a form of evasion because it's going to banish cards that are defending it as well as cards on the previous chains. Yeah. So if they don't have a defense reaction, if they want to cover this at all, they have to give at least 2 cards. That's powerful. But the 2 cost is really what makes me go, eh. And more, frankly, maybe things change, but like I'm not seeing this as a meta where we really have to like when people block with their equipment, they're pretty comfortable with it going. I think that with the inclusion of Jarl in the format, there could be even more of that where people are like, I'm used to the idea that I might lose my equipment.
Yeah. Where I think you may get a lot more credit of this is come late 2025 when we get the Guardian Mastery set.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to get a lot more fridge equipment. And granted, we
Losing
don't know what a lot of
plating would suck.
We don't know what a lot of the equipment that's going to be coming out of this next set is with Warriors, but generally Warriors have a lot of good equipment.
It could be
so if there's a lot of like battle worn equipment coming up this year, this I think gets a lot more value because a lot of people go, oh, I'm just going to block and I still get my equipment to do the thing later. But
what if I told you that in the Dory Hatchets meta, this was a one of?
I guess this is a one of.
Yeah. And that's one of the great things about Retrace the Past is cards that are in C tier and cards in B tier. Yeah, run them as a one of. Run S tiers as a one of. Who cares?
Yeah, I think if we go back to like a fridge value meta kind of thing, I like this more. Right now, I'm not sold on it.
Sideboard for Warriors and Guardians.
Yeah, let's talk about the 100 wins line because I think of the 100 wins line kind of when I think of this card, I also think of the 100 wins line because they were very prominent during the Bonds of Ancestry era. So I think you guys know 100 wins. The combo is that it gets an additional additional attack value for each card name 100 wins on the line. It blocks for 2 and starts at 3. And then Winds of Eternity is it's going to come in for 4. And if it hits, it will shuffle all the 100 wins back into your deck. So how do you guys feel about these?
Okay. You take this, Brice, because I'm still on Cyclone. I'm figuring something Cyclone.
Yeah.
You keep going. I'm going to go back to the other card later.
So this is a personal free. So you would be naming it 100 wins to get a free start on that.
On 100 wins, you would name 100 wins. On Winds of Eternity, you would name 100 wins. Yeah. So this is always a situation in which you're naming 100.
Makes it a breakpoint. And then that breakpoint becomes another breakpoint, depending how many you get, right? You can jump from 3 to 5. I don't know a situation where you would like really have that many that you'd go up to 7. That would really have to be like stars aligning there. 2 block, I think it kind of depends like how much you can recurse this in one turn ultimately. I mean, sounds like 7 to have one go for, but then like your existing ones go for 3, 5, 7. That's still a good escalation. That's a lot of damage in the end, but it sounds like that's something very situational.
I'm gonna say, and I think this might be controversial among the Katsu community, I think these are B tier at best right now. The block value on 100 wins is bad, and because of the way that lines are playing out, where you're not going 6 chain links wide necessarily, 100 wins gets less likely to see more 100 wins. And it also has this weird thing where it typically, like, it can be used as a starter just to like possibly get a, to make them block one card out before you, send a break point into a whelming gust wave or something, right? But the Bonds of Ancestry value on this was massive because, like this and Spinning Wheel Kick, they had so much value in that deck because of their natural go again that it made the 2 block much less of a problem, because you could just go, okay, well, I don't have a Surging Strike, I don't have a Descendant Gust Wave or any sort of follow-up in my hand, and I don't want to burn through the rest of the cards that I'm going to need later in my deck. So I don't want to go get a Descendant Gust Wave and just rip another Descendant Gust Wave out of my deck. If I'm just paying a resource and sending 3, you would go get 100 wins to send 100 wins and a Kodachi, right? Just the ability to keep your chain link going wider while continuing to thread and mask was a very important thing, a very important role that 100 wins played when you could have that additional tutor each time you had a Bonds of Ancestry. Now it's really important to have extenders in this list, because the one thing you really can't do while building this list is just play 9 Surging Strikes and think it's gonna work. We're not going to go into it too much here. You have to run other starters in this list. You have to run leg taps, head jabs, because the things that we're getting value out of are really good, and it's really cool when 3 of the cards in your deck are able to proc that, but we need to be able to do that more consistently, and we need to be able to chain together links when you look at your hand and go, I don't know what this does. I don't want to just send Kodachi 2 on a turn where I don't start with Surging Strike, right? I still want to be able to do some things. And so 100 wins is really good for letting you do that. The reason that I'm putting Winds of Eternity over that is it gets your Retrace the Past back into your deck, and it comes in for a break point. They both do in this scenario, but it will always come in for a break point, whereas a blue or a yellow 100 wins won't. And it blocks for 3. So I like Winds of Eternity just a little bit more, especially because it has just the additional value of a card back into your deck. So when you're playing against some sort of fatigue strategy, you do have a little bit of counterplay there. So
makes sense.
I'm going to say before you go on, just Cyclone Roundhouse, because I wanted to check this. I'm going to change my thoughts on it. I think it's better. I think it's situationally better. Only because, and I wanted to double check this, going into a big assassin meta as well, all their equipment's buyback only if in graveyard. So
that's a good point.
I think if you take out Black Tech Whispers, Mask Perdition, I also think Redback Shroud is going to start seeing a lot of play after the next set, just based on where I think the Arachne's going. You could potentially just destroy their entire hand.
That's a really good point.
All of what Assassin wants to do. We're going to see Warrior equipment. We're going to see Assassin equipment. I think it's going to be a central sideboard piece for Assassins and Warriors.
Counterpoint: Contract D-reacts. And your cards get banned.
I would love nothing more than contract D-react for Arachne.
You're contracted to rip up your own deck. Yeah, I could see that. I'm personally not sold on it yet, just because, like I've said, I think that we are more and more pushing for a Razor Reflex deck, and just having another target that you can't go for is a little bit rough. So Hurricane Technique is the next one I want to talk about. When its combo is active, which is after a Rising Knee Thrust, or in this case, a Retrace the Past named Rising Knee Thrust, it'll come in for 5, and if it hits, it'll come back to hand. It costs 1. Its natural attack is 4, and it blocks for 3.
Boy, sending anything back to your hand is a really strong effect.
I agree.
Why? Oh man, why can't I find it on the list? I have like Fabrary opened with all of the cards that say combo on them, just so I could look at something.
You can't find it because no one's ever looked for it.
Yeah. I mean, it hits all those other conditions that we've been talking about the whole time, and the recursion back to the hand, if you can get it, is
Like it.
yeah.
I'm a big
It-
fan of this one, but
Better double strike.
I don't think it's better than Flusterfist, because
No.
Flusterfist is able to just come in for 0 and also be a tutor card.
Mhm.
But if you do have 2 floating resources and they've blocked out, congratulations, 9 value. That's pretty wonderful. But it also does have a problem of if your opponent knows combo lines and you say Rising Knee Thrust, they can assume it's either going to be Blackout Kick or this, and they can go, okay, well, like I should probably keep some cards. I should keep 5 block here at least, so that they don't just get 9 value right away. And maybe
Fair.
it's a Blackout Kick. I can take 2. But I think that getting this back into your hand is incredible, especially if you do end up in a situation where you have more card draw than we currently have. Like if ninjas do get more card draw in this set, this could be something where you're playing it for 5, getting it back, pitching it for a surging strike, and starting that line over again. So obviously we don't have that really yet. That's not really built into it now. But even in the scenario of you just aren't in a position where you can lose cards in your deck, sending 5, hitting, and pitching for Kodachis, you might even only pitch for 1. And yeah, it's better to send 4. But if you're down to the wire and it's like, I really, really need to keep cards in my deck, it does have some play there. You probably almost always send it for 4, though.
So question about hurricane technique, and this is something that I feel like I have learned this rule multiple times, but I always forget where it applies. If hurricane technique hits and comes back to your hand, is rising knee thrust still the last attack on the combat chain,
It is
or is
not.
there
No.
that like
No.
memory that hurricane technique was there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like like a phantom hurricane is kind of
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's because I was like, man, that would be really busted if it like, oh, and look, it just so happens that Rising Knee Thrust is still the last chain.
This was the
That'd
card
be
that I
pretty wild.
most wanted to play in Zen. I really wanted to just double transcend, play Shifting Winds, go fetch this, and then just every turn it's just Tiger 5, Tiger 5, Tiger 5. It didn't work. I was not a good Zen player. But yeah, I think this is really good, especially because it, again, is just another example of like a 1-cost breakpoint. We like those. Another 1-cost breakpoint, we have Chase the Tail. I'm going to cut to the chase here and say, I don't know, because when I've been testing my Tiger Katsu hybrid, the first Tiger is not that bad to get, but the second Tiger is really hard. And in this case, you do get to use the Retrace the Past as the first Tiger.
Yeah,
but
you still need another one.
Yeah, okay.
And also you need Retrace the Past, which is like, we're talking about what Retrace the Past does for this deck, does for these cards. But also, like, if you don't have a Tiger, like, it can just be 4 for 1 cost. So I'm gonna be honest, I don't know where this goes right now, and I'm gonna say that I'm gonna guess that the Tiger Katsu is not where we end up like going with this list, and I'll put this here.
So okay, the big asterisk on this entire thing is that everything we're talking about relies on Retrace the Past. Is it worth putting something in that's very situational, where in this case you have to have another Tiger in some way, where you're only going to have 3 shots at Retrace the Past?
We have a card that can handle exactly that, and it is called Pouncing Paws. It's a leg slot that just says, destroy this, make a Tiger in Banish Zone. So that would allow this to be a 1-cost 7 over 2 links. Because you name Retrace the Past, Crouching Tiger, you play Chase the Tail, you break your boots, and you send that. I'm not willing to give up my Breeze Rider boots for this one niche play line that I have to build my deck in a way that I'm like making Tigers that I don't really have the best ways of like buffing, because I'm not committed enough to Tigers to run Roar of the Tiger, and I've got to be able to pitch. And also a thing with Tigers is if you look at a lot of the cards that generate Tigers or that work with tigers, they tend to steer more towards one cost. Fighting Breeze is an example of a 0 cost that can make a tiger on hit, but it doesn't come in for a breakpoint. And so like you'd be discarding it. It blocks 2. Like it's just Katsu right now, I think is probably going to be better served going in the traditional path. Also, I'm going to dock this a couple points just for how popular it is in Zen, and just naming Crouching Tiger and then showing this while having boots up. It's just purely face up. And so there's a lot of joy in playing Katsu when things are a little bit uncertain, when you can just be like, I don't know, what do I have? Maybe I do have a Razor Reflex. I've got one floating in a Pounding Gale. You would really hate to wager that I don't. So I'm just going to say that right now, I'll put it here. I could be wrong, could end up higher. There are a lot more combo cards out there. I just wanted to talk about some of the big ones. And so we'll end on Find Center. Now, you guys probably know Find Center. It's the one that makes a Zen State token, and it is evasive, but it doesn't get a buff. So it says that it cannot be blocked by cards with resource cost less than the number of chain links you control. And if it hits, you create a Zen State token. So if you were to play against another aggro deck, right? You're playing against a Cheerios deck. Great. They're not going to be able to block it with cards from hand. It comes in for 2, and its on hit is fantastic.
So okay, yeah, against an aggro deck, it's like a guaranteed.
Against a Guardian, it could very well do nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Against if Kadachi that 3 gotta worry about Guardians mostly.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I mean, if, like I said, with the Kadachi something else into that, less than 4 is a lot of cards unless you're a Guardian or a Brute. I mean, that's
so I mean, if let's say you line this up perfectly over the course of the game, you're getting what, 3 Zen State tokens out, right?
If you hit every one of these without any recursion in your deck, you're getting 3 Zen State tokens. And you could go on an open-ended journey to find out how much value that is, but I'll tell you, against a Guardian, that's 3.
Yeah. It's to say, it's to me, that's not making me like squeal with joy. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot more exciting things here. I feel like preventing 3 damage, especially against another aggro deck, it's like, oh, I can't block. I don't care. I don't want to block anyway. You know, okay, prevent the 1. Chances are they don't care about that.
Yeah. Zen States will stick around for 2 turns. I forgot. Yeah, they'll be around.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, unless you
mid.
Okay. So this card is in A tier because of its role in a lot of matchups. It is one of the cards that you sideboard out, in my opinion, against things like Guardians. That's where you can side in your Dishonor, where it's more valuable to have a on hit that threatens them and also just gets the buff, honestly. Just comes in for the breakpoint. However, Zen State tokens are probably the most powerful. It is the most powerful token in the game. That's not particularly close. Zen State tokens are insane. And the problem with it is, yes, they can't block with cards from their hand most of the time, but a lot of equipment can cover it completely.
Yeah.
So with a Razor Reflex, you're golden, but without it, you're risking it.
Yeah.
However, I think that it is often worth it to send this knowing that they will commit equipment and that it will not hit. I think that is a worthwhile trade because you're able to do, like, if you're against a Brute and all they have left in equipment value, let's say they've already used Bone Breakers once, they've used their Scab Skins up, like, either they're going to give you like a Tunic and a Bone Breaker, or they're going to give you like their Scowling Flesh Bag. Those are trades that I think we're okay making at the end of a chain for Katsu. And if they're not willing to give that up and they want to prevent a big turn later, then we can prevent a lot of damage on their turn. So I think that it's a really good card for just kind of posing the question to your opponent of like, what are you willing to trade? Because late game, when they've used their equipment, especially at heroes that, like, if you're against another Katsu or you're against another hero, any hero that's breaking their equipment, it's insane late game.
Okay,
it's so good.
So I had a misunderstanding of Zen State. I thought it was one of those things like, hey, when you prevent the 1 damage, it goes away.
No, it is the best token in the game by far. It prevents 1 of every source of damage.
Okay. So yeah, in my head, I'm like, when you're like, yeah, Guardians, it's 3. And I'm like, yeah, but it's like 3 for everybody. You just hit it, destroy. You know what I mean? No, okay.
This I get it now. When OTK Viserai takes this damage, they cannot TK. Yeah. They can't K.
Because it's just prevent the 1, prevent the 1, prevent the 1, prevent the 1.
There's 2 turns of them not being able to K.
Yep.
Vincent doesn't care about that, at least for one of them. But yeah, I think that this is like definitely high tier. So if you're looking to build Katsu and you want to know like what are some powerful cards to play with Retrace the Past, if you only have experience playing with Bonds of Ancestry, I would suggest starting with these and learning what the new play lines look like, because they don't look quite as much like go find 100 wins, go find spinning wheel kick and just keep the chain going and present more damage, because you can do, 12 chain links long. We're not doing 12 chain links here. We're doing 5, and we want to end on a 7 or a 5, something that has an on hit, preferably something that is going to either give us card advantage, take away card advantage from our opponent. And so that's sort of where I see this list going. There's a lot to discuss about like how much you run of certain cards like Surging Strikes, your Gust Waves, that I don't think I want to get into here. Maybe I'll do a separate video myself on that. But I wanted to take you guys through really why Katsu players are so excited right now. It's not because Katsu is S tier. It's because we get to look at all of these cards that we never played before or likely weren't playing. And in the case of things like Flusterfist, playing for different reasons. Flusterfist was just a card that you could get with Bonds of Ancestry and with a breakpoint. It wasn't just that, but, now we have a lot more of like, ooh, let's get crafty. What are we doing? And I think that is really the design that Bonds took away from the hero and is what Retrace the Past is giving it. We're not getting the insanely powerful, over-the-top, triple Art of War, triple Bonds turns. We're never getting that back. What we're getting is the ability to play these flexible cards and present more questions to our opponent. Thank you for coming to my Craig talk.
You don't realize
for my shit talk.
You don't realize how much of a mistake you've made telling us how to beat you.
No, no,
giving
Brice,
us
trust
more
me, I'm not worried about
these,
it.
Like,
no, this is actually this is honestly super helpful. I mean, especially because again, I don't think people see a lot of Katsu these days, and so whenever this comes out and like the Katsu mains kind of come back out from their den, so to speak, there's going to be a lot of new things to worry about, and we're just going to all be looking for the same line. So,
well, I'm happy to sit down with both of you like
cool.
anytime and go over like what is the thing you're worried about here, because Katsu is really all about knowing Katsu's deck. It's very similar to how you guys play Warriors, especially Dorinthia.
Yeah, if you know how to play Dory, you can beat Dory.
It's
if you know how to block is
the question is, do you know their card pool? If you don't know their card pool, you're going to have a very difficult time. Like you might have an understanding of like their hero power and be like, okay, well, I don't want to let Dory hit here, and what can they do? But like if you don't know their card pool, you don't know what they can do. And so that's what you're looking for with Katsu as well, is just what information are they giving me? What are they presenting me? And what could that mean into chain links?
That's good.
Yeah. But Brice, I'm more than happy to continue to give you guys all of the secrets to beating me. but I shall be in my dojo. Ooh. No.
With your little boots and your kodachis.
Immediately logs on to Club Penguin, enters the dojo. Bring it back. All right. I know we wanted to talk about other spoiler cards, but I'm really glad that you guys let me
No, this is a good focus. I think this is well needed. Now we just need the thumbnail of like you behind a teacher's desk, like with a Katsu body in your head, and me and just Brice just sitting at like little school desks, just like.
I mean, we can just like real quick all agree that maybe other than the quiver, these have been some absolutely wild reveals in the expansion slots.
The best expansion slot spoilers by
crazy.
far.
Every one of these has been like an absolute banger for their class. Like I cannot wait to try to use
forgot Splatter Skull existed the moment they showed these. I was like, what were the expansion slots last set? Who cares? Like,
this set's on fire, and I'm sure whenever we talk later, we'll record again before Hunted comes out. We'll talk a lot more about the other stuff, but yeah, this will be a fun set for expansion slots.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I'm definitely interested if you've made it this far in the video, and I know you all have. Let us know what cards you think deserve to be higher, what cards deserve to be lower, what are we missing, so that we can all share in the knowledge of how to beat Katsu at RTN season.
Also, remember when you want to criticize for this tier list, this was all Craig.
Yes, that's true.
Don't yell at me. I'm just a little guy. Don't yell at me.
Hey, I'm just saying, you're wrong about Life of the Party. It's not good. Stop it. You're not cooking. Put the pot down.
Pablo Ventura is going to come and win Worlds next year and be like, I went with Life of the Party Katsu because I wanted to prove Craig wrong.
Dude, if I'm wrong and that card's gas, people are just.
Oh, that'd be so cool. Like,
that'd be so cool. I would never hear the end of it, Chris.
I not so much because you wouldn't hear the end of it, but I just like weird interactions like that.
I mean, that would be cool.
I think
it's
fun.
wacky, and
that's
wacky is great.
Goofy cards out. Yeah.
This is to me, Life of the Party, really cool UPF Katsu card. Like,
oh my god, yeah.
But
get the hell out of here.
All right, boys.
We got some. Hey, Chris,
my brain hurts. You made me learn today, Craig. I don't like that.
Yeah, ping Matt and let him know that we're ready to play to comp queue some rivals because I gotta zone out now. That was
you got the itch.
I just want to be a little shark that shoots water, and you made me learn combo lines.
I love that hero is in that game. I don't know. You could tell me that he's from Sonic, and I'd be like, he's my favorite. But what
Sonic
if you can
put him? What if you put him in pajamas that look like a dolphin? You could make him so much better.
Wait, there's a skin.
He has a skin.
Yeah, that's pajamas.
That's like a dolphin pajamas. It's great.
Rivals does something really cool, especially as somebody who does not have a lot of like Marvel/DC knowledge. Most of the skins in the game are actually based off older comic book art. So it'll actually tell you when you're on like the store page, it'll say like this skin first appeared in X-Men volume whatever in 1992 or whatever. And it gives you some like cool little insight to those things, especially like I said, I don't know shit about Marvel.
They've got full on what is in theater, what's the term for the person who's like the historian of the text?
Oh,
I don't.
Narrator or
no.
Historian of the text.
Like there's someone's job who it is to like if it's like, okay, this play takes place in this remote town in Canada. There's often someone's job who's like, so I researched this remote town in Canada, and here's what we need to know. And I think it starts with a P.
I get what you're saying, but I don't know the name of that. Just like the on-site researcher,
the dramaturge. I don't know
that. You can't call me that.
Study and practice of dramatic compositions. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
y'all Google it and tell us what it is because we're idiots.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much. And we will see you in the next one.
Again.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.